Hello, it's November 8th, 2017, and I'm here with George Reid. Nice to meet you, George.
Good to meet you, Jeff.
We're going to get to know you real well, so if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, so let's begin. Okay, George, can you tell us your full name and your birthday?
Okay, George Daniel Reid, July 8, 1923.
23.
On 94 plus.
94 plus. Where did you grow up?
Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. Okay. Your parents. Do you remember your parents' names and their birthdays?
Oh yeah. My mother was Annie Frierson, Frierson, Reid. Now Annie Josephine Frierson Reid. And my father was William McNeil Reid.
Okay.
And McNeil, a little strange, but his daddy was a Methodist circuit riding minister, and he named all his children after someone prominent that he knew in his circuit, in the Methodist church.
Right.
And that's how the McNeil got in there.
Yeah.
So he's got, my daddy has about 5 brothers, and they all have strange names.
Yeah, normally you hear McNeil as the last name. I've got some
Yeah.
McNeils,
Yeah.
but the last name is McNeil.
Yeah.
So, do you remember your mom's birthday?
Birthday?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think it was
Both of them had to have been born.
December 6th of 1897, I think.
1897. Your dad's birthday, do you remember his birthday?
Yeah. February 2nd of 1894 or 96, I forget.
That's February 2nd is my mom's birthday. So that's.
If it's real important, I can go back and look at these things that I don't recall without the notes. But
Well, we'll probably get to somewhere down there. So
Okay.
we'll make sure we find it. Do you remember your first home? Or what city your first home was in? Was it in Savannah?
Savannah.
Savannah. What's your earliest memory of childhood?
Of childhood.
Yeah.
I guess I must have been about 3 or 4 years old, and we had an arbor in front of the house. There was the house and a little walkway and a sidewalk, and then about 4 feet of grass, and then the street, the curb. And in that little 4 feet of grass, we had a lattice work arbor, and it grew vines of flowers or whatever.
Right.
And I remember sitting out there talking to my daddy and my mama.
How about that?
Yeah.
Were there any other did you grow up and go through middle school, elementary, middle, and high school living in one place, or did you move around?
Yeah. No, I lived on Park Avenue in Savannah until I was 19 years old or so,
Okay.
and went in the military.
Okay. We're definitely going to talk about the military.
Okay.
Your brothers and sisters, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
One older brother, one younger sister.
Okay. Are they still living, or did they
Then
pass?
my brother died about 5, 6 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, I can talk about him or I can answer the
Yeah,
rest.
tell me, what was his name?
His name was William McNeil Reid Jr.
Oh, so you
Named Jr. after his daddy, yeah.
Right.
And he was an electronic expert.
Was it?
Yeah, he played with electronics at a very early age, in his teenage, I guess, and was in the Naval Reserve as a radio man, and instructor in a whole lot of things that have to do with electronics. I talked a long time about him. But
Well, we may come back to him.
Okay.
Now tell me about your sister.
My sister is Ann or Annie, and I'm not sure. My mother was Annie with an I-E. I think they named my sister A-N-N-E, just Ann. Ann Frierson Reid Smith. Smith was a married name.
Okay. All right.
She was 3 and a half, 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
My brother was 4 years older, and he was deceased.
Okay. And she's still living.
Yeah,
Great.
in Charleston.
Charleston. Okay. Do you remember what you did for fun as a child? I mean, what was some of the activities you did when you were a child? Do you remember?
Well, for fun, we went to the movies a good bit. There
Right.
wasn't a whole lot else to do. Played a lot of sandlot ball, but football mostly. Some baseball, very little basketball. I was never tall enough to play basketball. Let's see, movies, athletics. We went about every year or so. We'd always go on a family reunion.
Okay.
They don't do that much nowadays, but back then they did about every year.
Right.
If not every year, then at least 2 years.
Right. Well, for some of the new generation that's watching, what was a typical Christmas like in your house?
Oh, okay. Christmas was, we always hung stockings on the mantle. We had a pocket door between the living room and the dining room, and that pocket door stayed closed from Christmas Eve till Christmas morning.
Right.
And we'd wake up on Christmas morning and run downstairs, and they wouldn't let us do anything until the parents opened the pocket doors.
Uh-huh.
Then we'd run in and we had a Christmas tree and just unwrap all the gifts and that
Right.
sort of thing, yeah, and have big dinner. And
Did the stockings have fruit in them? Is that what was common?
stockings usually had an apple and an orange,
Uh-huh.
and that's about it.
Yeah.
Wasn't a whole lot. This was back in the
Late 30s, early, well, in the 30s.
in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 30s. Yeah.
So we've got you going through middle school and then you graduated college. You finished high school. When you went to the military, were you drafted?
No.
Volunteer?
That's a long story. I'll try to make it short.
Okay.
But I always thought I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Right.
And I felt like there was a lot of glory in it, and it would attract the women and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, I wanted to join the Air Force, and my parents wouldn't let me. I was 16 or 17 at the time. And then I went to college, and the first year I was there, I told my mom, I said, I want to go in the get in the Air Force while the getting in is still good, you know. This was like 1942, 43. And she wouldn't sign. I had to have a waiver from her, you know, to get to go on active duty.
Is that because you were under 18?
Under 18 and in college.
In
yeah.
college.
No, I guess I was 19, 18, I don't know, but
Right.
but I was in college, and I could have been deferred, I guess, as long as I was in school.
I see.
And my mother stuck to that and didn't want me to leave, but eventually I talked her into signing a waiver, and I turned the waiver in, and they called me up within a few weeks, I guess, in the middle of a semester. my sophomore year.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was your job when you got into the military?
I was a B-29 pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
So you did fly?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
The
Wow.
biggest, fastest, heaviest, latest, most sophisticated
Wow.
airplane at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
So you had not finished college, but they allowed you to go to flight school?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 After I got the waiver, yeah.
Right. So how long did you train in the States before you actually?
Oh gosh. I altogether 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Initially, I was in the Southeastern Training Command, and I took primary flight training at Camden, South Carolina, basic flight training at Bush Field in Augusta, Georgia, advanced training, flight training at Moody Field in Valdosta, Georgia. And that's when I finished there. I got my wings and commission, and went to Maxwell Field in Montgomery, Alabama for B-24 transition training, flight training.
Right.
And when I got 105 hours, I think, in B-24 as a pilot, and I figured, well, they're gonna get me now and send me over to Europe and to fight the war or whatever. The war was still going on. This was 44, so
Right.
anyway, when I finished the B-24 flight training, they brought in B-29s for the first training group there at Maxwell Field. And I think I had been cut on orders to go over to Europe, and they rescinded those orders and put me in flight training with B-29s. And so I did that, stayed at Maxwell Field for another 100 or so hours of B-29 flight training.
Right.
And let's see, when I finished there, I went to operational training at MacDill Field in Tampa, Florida. That's where I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah. And from MacDill Field, I think I went to Tinian Island then, that's right. From MacDill, after operational training in B-29, went to Tinian Island over in the Marianas, about 40 miles north of Guam.
Oh.
And by this time, I'd been in the service now about 4 years, and, well, not quite that long. But anyway, the war was kind of smoothing out a little bit
Right.
and slowing down, and I didn't get much combat flying there. Flew a lot of missions, search missions and rescue missions.
Really?
And power of POW supply missions and all that kind of thing. Very few combat missions.
Right.
Because, it was about over by then. I got over there in June, and the war ended August, September of 45.
Okay. Okay. So were those good years? Did you love those? Did you enjoy being a pilot? Enjoy when you look back?
Yeah, there was a lot of anxiety to flying because every time you took one off the ground, you never knew if you was going to get it back in one piece.
Well.
And the B-29 was notorious for engine fires.
Oh.
And every second or third or fourth week or so, you'd have an engine fire. If you didn't catch it right quick when it started, you were out of luck. It would burn the wing off. But
did you ever?
we was lucky. I had a good flight engineer.
Good.
handled all emergencies like that very well, yeah.
Any close calls?
Not in combat, no, but I had a few close calls, yeah, a couple of engine fires. One time each engine had 2 turbo superchargers on it, and the turbo was, about so round metal, and it had vanes and fins in it like a jet engine, and that turned an impeller which pumped the gasoline fuel mixture into the engine. And one of the turbos, the turbo was controlled by a exhaust gas gate. There was a gate in the exhaust line that went to the turbo, and it controlled the turbo by closing or opening that gate. And the gate got stuck open, and that turbo started going up, and it must have got 60,000 RPMs, and finally it just disintegrated, and all the fins on it just exploded, and it sounded like machine gun fire hitting the airplane.
How did you get it down?
Well, it didn't do enough damage that all the other 3 engines were still good,
Good.
and it didn't do any structural damage to the airplane,
Good.
and so that was no problem. One other time, after the war was over, they were moving our group. I was in the 9th Bomb Group, 313th Wing. They were moving our group over to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, about 30-40 miles north of Manila. And it was 900 miles from where we were to Clark Air Force Base, all over water. And anyway, we took off, and shortly after we got going, we discovered that one of the, I'm not sure about this, but one of the filler caps on the tank got loose or something, and it was siphoning gasoline out. And so we was losing a lot of gasoline, and we didn't know whether we could make it all the way or not. And we got about halfway and decided that we weren't absolutely sure we could make it. We better locate some help or something. Well, the Navy had a ship about halfway in between Guam and Manila, and they call, what do they call them? Life, not life preserver. Anyway, I don't know. And so we tried to locate it on the radio, and we had a radio compass that would tell you from which their signal was coming, and you fly along on that signal until you see the ship. And anyway, the radio compass didn't work too well. It was, I guess it was operative correctly, but it operated on about 500 kilocycles, which is standard broadcast band. And of course you get a lot of static and all that on the broadcast band.
Right.
And there were severe thunderstorms in the area where that ship was, and so we didn't know whether to ditch and or bail out or what to do, hoping that they could find us in the water if we bailed out or ditched. Well, we never could find the ship. When we got to where it was supposed to be, there was a great big thunderstorm there, and that was what was misdirecting our radio compass.
Oh,
So it was too far to turn around and go back, so we kept on going, hoping we'd make it, losing gasoline all the time. And we had one engine that was out, it just quit. It had a problem and we shut it down. And then still further, the second engine didn't work properly. It was pulling about half power. So we were running on 2.5 engines and one engine out. And still had about 500 miles or so to go. And anyway, we got there, and just barely.
was it your decision to go, to try to make it there? Was it your decision, or was it the team's decision?
It was, well, both. It was a joint decision. We discussed it, you know, and,
Right.
and was throwing stuff out of the airplane and,
Really?
you know, to make it lighter and so
Really,
forth.
you did all that?
Yeah, it got to that point.
Wow.
And anyway, we got there, but after we got off the runway and was turning off the runway to go to the hardtop, one engine ran out of fuel.
That was close.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, we made it. That was close, but it was. When you think back on it, I guess it was scary. It
yes.
did make you kind of anxious, you know,
Yeah.
but you really, you didn't have time to think about that. You had other stuff to do.
Right.
Make sure you're gonna get where you're going.
Well, wow, well,
I made that too long. I'm
No,
taking up too
no.
much time.
no, those are the those are good stories. I like those. Those are the ones we want to capture. So you met your wife while you were stationed in Florida.
Yeah.
Did you get married before you?
No, we didn't get married until I came back and came off of active duty.
Okay. Did you correspond with her back and forth?
Yeah, occasionally.
Occasionally.
Not like a lot of people do,
Right.
but enough to let her know I still live in.
Right. And how long would it take a letter to get from her to you?
Oh,
and you to
God,
her?
it depends. I don't know really. Probably several weeks.
Several weeks.
Yeah.
See, today we got cell phones in combat.
Yeah.
Where you can call
Right.
while you're in combat, call back home. So
Yeah, and they even use what is it?
satellite phones.
Yeah, but what do they call it when they transmit a picture? You can talk and see each
Oh
other.
yes,
Skype.
Skype.
That's
That's
what
right.
I'm trying to think of. Skype.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
They
right.
didn't have that back then. No.
Yep. So your commitment comes up. You didn't think about making it a career, or you were ready to get out when it was time to get out.
I was ready to get out because I wanted to get married,
Oh, okay.
but in retrospect, sometimes I wish I had made a career out of the military. I enjoyed it. It was rough at times, and
But life as an officer is not bad.
well, it's better than enlisted man.
Yes, it is much better.
But when you get overseas, though, the table's pretty much even.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about after the military. You met your wife, you got married. What year did you get married?
1946, August 10th.
August 10th. And where did you live after you got married? What's
Well, that was in August, and I was going back to school. Not at the time we got married. I guess I must have had to wait till another quarter started, another semester or whatever. And so we lived there, in Tampa and Savannah, back and forth for a while, until I went to school. And Of course, she went with me. And, we lived in Bettville. It was, it was on the campus at NC State.
NC State?
NC State.
You
At
came,
that time, it was NC State College. It's
Right.
a university now.
so
yeah.
you came back here in North Carolina?
Came back to Raleigh, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the Vetville was a bunch of frame, tar paper kind of buildings that looked like they were old ex-military that was falling down or something. Anyway, that's where the veterans lived that were students.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And I don't know why there, unless they just wanted to get all the veterans together or something. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with finances. I was living on a GI Bill.
Right.
It was, what, $50, $75 a month or something like that, whatever it was.
Well, so what was your major at NC State College?
I started out, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and I started out in mechanical engineering and went one full year and part of another year. I don't remember whether we were on quarters or semesters, but it was either it was more than 1 year, but less than 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you got out of there, did you change majors?
Yeah.
And what you majored in?
I didn't change until I came back after my military service.
Right.
Like I said, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and when I came back, I thought to myself, gee, the war's over, they're not gonna need a bunch of engineers, the economy wasn't all that great at the time and all, and I said to myself, the people gonna have clothes, they gotta wear clothes, and so the apparel industry ought to be pretty good, so I think I'll just switch to textiles. And I did, but I didn't end up in apparel. I ended up in synthetic fibers, mostly tire cord and carpet and things, and uses like that.
Okay. How many years were you in textiles?
Well, the rest of my working life, yeah,
Where did
30 years.
Where did you work at?
I worked I started out at Mooresville Mills over in Iredell County,
Okay.
north of Charlotte.
Right.
Went from there, I was there fresh out of college. I went from there to Burlington Industries in Burlington.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to Pensacola, Florida. And Monsanto and American Viscose jointly owned a nylon producing plant there. And the name of it was Chemstrand Company. And so I went with the Chemstrand Company. It was a little increase in pay, and it was new to me. I thought it'd be interesting and challenging. Anyway, went to Chemstrand in Pensacola, Florida. Shortly after I got there, Monsanto bought out American Viscose and owned Chemstrand completely. They dropped the name Chemstrand, and that became just a division of Monsanto. And I stayed in that division the whole time, rest of my working career, but at different locations.
Right. So did you move around a lot?
About 7 or 8 times, I think.
I went to 4 different high schools.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed moving around. It was...
I didn't mind moving. It was kind of hard on the kids, though. I had 2 daughters, and And each time we moved, it seemed it was always their first year in high school.
Right.
And of course, that was a big disruption in their life, you know, but
Yeah,
I think in the long haul, though, things like that are good for them.
I think there are too, because in life, you move around from place to place.
Yeah,
And you learn that social skill of meeting new people and
right.
knowing who to migrate toward and who not to migrate toward. And
Yeah.
so you learn a lot of good life lessons, I think. So
Yeah.
there's advantages to it. How did you end up in Raleigh?
Well, I was living in Lawrenceville, Georgia, in Gwinnett County at the time, and my wife passed away June 1st of 2004, and I got kind of reckless. I started chasing women and that sort of thing, and spending money like I was growing on trees. And my daughters were smarter than I was, and they figured I couldn't do that very long. I'd end up living under a bridge, destitute. So I moved. One of the daughters lived here in Raleigh, and so they found not an apartment, anyway, and I bought it and moved to Raleigh.
Okay.
And that was 2007, I guess. Been here ever since.
In Raleigh, that's how you got to Raleigh.
Yeah.
So your children, some of your children, how many children do you have?
I had two daughters.
$2.
The one I was talking about lived here, recently moved to Beaufort. Her husband was a dentist, and he had a stroke, and he had to sell his business and retire. So he did, and they moved to Beaufort. Beaufort.
Beaufort, North Carolina.
Beaufort,
Right.
yeah. South Carolina's Beaufort.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My other daughter lives over in North Georgia,
Okay.
near a little town called Helen, Georgia. You may have heard of it. It's a weekend vacation place around the Atlanta area.
So what are your daughter's first names?
The one in Georgia is Patricia
Okay.
Ann.
Okay.
We call her Patty. And the one in Beaufort is Vivian Susan, I think. We call her Susan.
Susan.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You have grandchildren?
Oh yeah, got 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Your wife's first name?
Dorothy.
Dorothy. Dorothy, and her maiden name?
Riles, R-Y-L-E-S.
Okay. All right. And
No, R-A-Y-L-E-S, I think. R-A-Y-L-S.
okay.
Riles.
All right. As you were in your lifetime, were you politically active? Did politics play a big part of your life, or did you kind of go with the flow of? You made sure you voted, but you
I
really
voted every chance I had, I guess, most all my life.
You remember who the first president was you voted for?
Let's see, I would have been, yeah, it was Franklin D. No, I wasn't young, I wasn't old enough then. It must have been, I don't remember.
Eisenhower. So before JFK, there was it Eisenhower? Was he World War II?
That was in the 50s, probably Eisenhower.
Yeah.
That would have been, yeah, after the war, after I'd come back from service and got married and all. Seems like I voted before then though, but no, I can't be sure.
Right. Now, there's been some historical things happen during your lifetime. One of them was JFK shot. Do you remember where you were at when you heard the news that John F. Kennedy was shot?
Not when I first heard it, no, but I do remember it very distinctly. I was in Greenwood, South Carolina, lived there with my wife and 2 daughters and her mother. Her mother was, of course, much older and her husband was dead and had died, and she was living with us. But I remember sitting in the living room with the TV on, and all of us were sitting around, watching the TV and listening to it. Yeah. I don't remember the first instant I heard it, but I do remember all the aftermath
Right.
on the news and all that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
When I talked to Steve the other day, he remembered as a child, he's about your age, and remembered one thing he remembered he was very proud of is that in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he grew up, he remembered as a little boy talking to Civil War veterans.
Wow.
Well, yeah, isn't that amazing? Do you remember any? You remember?
I don't remember any Civil War veterans. No.
Yeah. And he said ex-slaves were there, and they were older, and probably your age is now. But I thought it was unique, and I didn't know if you had experienced anything like that you could remember.
Not Civil War, and my daddy was in World War I.
He was?
He never got overseas. I think he was a mess sergeant.
Okay.
He only had about a 3rd grade education, and anyway, like I said, a mess sergeant, and I don't remember anybody else and anything much about World War II, not personally.
You mean World War One?
World War I, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now World War II, I've interviewed a few vets and a few women that lived during that time. And one thing that was unique about all their stories was your generation couldn't wait to serve. It seems like it was almost like you wanted to serve. You couldn't get there fast enough.
Right.
Is that the way?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I was definitely, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Get in there just as soon as I could.
Is it because you felt, what do you think it was? Just you wanted to do your part, or?
Yeah. It helped develop patriotism within me, yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, you felt a certain, I hate to say this, but glory or something because you were in the military.
Right.
There's nothing glorious about the military or war, but
the uniform.
But the fact that it was there and somebody had to do it, you wanted to get in and do your share as early as you could.
Do you remember hearing about Pearl Harbor, where you were at when?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
I was a sophomore at NC State, and we was having a bull session in one of the students' rooms, and I guess I got out. I don't know why I got out of the room and was walking down the hallway when somebody came running up the hallway from the other direction and said, "Japs shot a bomb Pearl Harbor." Well, it was exciting, but nobody knew where Pearl Harbor was.
I was wondering if anybody knew anything about Pearl Harbor.
But we knew, the fact that war was imminent.
Right.
And
but you said you were a sophomore at NC State.
Yeah.
Was it NC State or was it the college?
it was NC State College at the time.
Right, so,
It's the same organization that just changed names.
okay,
All the various colleges in the university system
so,
changed the names, yeah.
so you were at NC State when you went to the service?
Yes,
Okay, and then you came back to NC State when you got out of the service?
yeah, but yeah, I came back before then, while I was in the service, first place they sent me was there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
because of the GI Bill? You were on the GI Bill?
No, when they inducted me,
Uh-huh,
they sent me to Miami, Florida, and they got all my shots and all that kind of stuff and all. And then they sent me right back to NC State.
oh, really?
Yeah, and it was about, there must have been a couple of hundred of us, I guess, all in a, what did they call it? It was an Air Force cadet training unit or something.
Oh, so that's where you did your office, like a ROTC thing?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Were you trained to be an officer or military?
I got college credit, ROTC credit for being in the military.
Okay,
But yes, I was in the service at NC State
I see.
before I started anything else. The
I see.
first place I was stationed. Yeah.
Right, nice. And there was a bunch of you there, you said?
There's a couple of hundred of us, yeah.
Okay, okay. Is there anything though right now that you think, any part of your life that was life-changing or that you want to make sure gets captured on this video?
My wife, Dorothy, was from Tampa,
Okay, that's right.
Florida.
That's where you met her.
And I was at MacDill, which is at Tampa. And that's how, when I met her, I was off for an evening, and I went in town with a buddy, and we walked down the street, and it must have been March or so. It was kind of windy that day, and these two girls were walking up ahead of us, and she had a little hat. Back in those days, women wore little hats, you know, and sometimes even wore white gloves, you know. But anyway, she had on this little old hat, and the wind blew it off, and it fell on the sidewalk, and I ran up and grabbed it, picked it up and gave it to her, and that's how I met her. And that was, I don't know, 43, 44, so anyway,
So
during
how-
the wartime.
How did you start talking after that? Did you get her name and
Yeah.
learn her name
Yeah.
and how did you make that first date? What was that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't remember the first date.
You must have been brave. Y'all must have talked a while after you gave her the hat. And-
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and her sister was with her. And she and the other guy were chatting also. We didn't go to the movie with them. I don't know why. That's where they were headed,
Oh,
and
okay.
we were just in town on the pass, you know.
Right.
I don't remember what we did the rest of the evening, but anyway, that's how I met her, and we chatted long enough for me to get phone number and name and so forth,
Right.
and all that, and that started it.
How about that? So how long did y'all court before you got married?
Well, it was probably 18 months or so, close to 2 years, I guess. Because shortly after that, I was at MacDill at the time, and shortly after that I went over to Tinian, and that was I don't remember, in June, I guess. And stayed over there until the following June, I think, and 46, when I came off active duty, and we got married in August of 46.
Oh, okay. And you wrote back and forth while you were in the military. Do you remember how you proposed to her?
Well, sort of, yeah, it was her house, they lived in a duplex, I'm not sure they owned it, I think they must have because they rented the other half to another family. But anyway, it was in the living room, and, I remember telling her, that if she married me, she probably never would be rich, because I don't think I'd ever be rich. I certainly was not rich at the time, but at least I wanted to finish my education, and would think, she respected that idea.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that was, I guess everybody else had gone to bed or asleep. We'd probably been to a movie or something, came back, it was late,
Right.
11, 12 o'clock at night. And I think she was sitting on the sofa, and I don't know whether I kneeled down on one knee or not, I just don't remember. But I do remember telling her that I wasn't rich and probably never would be, so if she married me, it wouldn't be for my money.
Did you give her a ring then, or did you have a ring to give her then, or did you wait till you got married? A ring.
Yeah, I think I had the ring. I don't remember giving her the ring or putting it on her finger though.
Right.
I don't know why, but I remember buying the ring. I bought it at a little jeweler store in Savannah. So I must have had it with me, yeah, when I proposed, I guess I did.
Did you talk to her dad first, or did you just ask her?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did he was okay with it?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get along good with her mom and dad?
Yeah, yeah, I got along fine with him. I didn't particularly like him. Well, I liked him just cordially, but I didn't think he was much of a man. He drank too much for one thing.
Right.
And he was supposed to give her away at the wedding, and he got drunk the night before, and wound up with a black eye. I don't know whether he got in a fight or what, but anyway, so we elected that he not perform at the wedding, and my uncle, I think my Uncle Dan gave me away.
Okay.
Yeah, not me. No, wait a minute. No, what am I thinking? Who gave her away? Gosh, I don't remember. I think it was her older brother.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow, that's. Well, they had to be impressed with you.
Some
because-
people are not going to like that one.
No, but I mean that's an interesting fact.
Yeah. Well, my dad, he didn't have much schooling. I think he said he had about third grade, and this was down eastern North Carolina at the time, and
What part?
Rose Hill.
Yes, I'm from Warsaw, which is in the same county.
Well, my first cousin, Ben Harrell, was mayor of Rose Hill for about 10 or 12 years.
How about that?
Yeah.
See, Rose Hill was, my mom and dad, I just ate supper with them not a week ago at Rose Hill Restaurant. Yeah, so I'm very, I grew up there.
Well, like I told you earlier, my grandfather, his father, was a Methodist circuit riding minister. He died at age 36. He had 7 children and left a widow and 7 children in Swansboro.
Yeah, I know Swansboro.
And the church, the Methodist church, had some members in Rose Hill or somewhere. One had a lot in Rose Hill, and the other had a building, a house, and they gave it to the church, and the church gave it to them. they put it on the lot. And, that must have been about 1898. He was about 2 years old at the time. And, incidentally, I've got a recount of that when they moved from Swansboro to Rose Hill, her and the 7 children. He was the youngest of the 7. The oldest was only 10. They had 7 children in 10 years. Anyway, so they put the church put that house on that lot and for them, and it only had 2 rooms and a bath, I think, and a pump. It had a back porch with a pump on, a hand pump.
Right.
Didn't have running water.
Right.
It didn't have electricity. It used lamps, kerosene lamps, you know.
Wow.
And anyway, that house is still there. I saw it about 2 years ago. A group from where I was living at the time at Waltonwood went down on their bus, and we went for some other reason, but anyway, while we were there, I told them, let's ride by my grandmother's house. And we rode by, and it's still there, it looked in good condition.
How about that?
So it had to have been, then it had to have been, let's see, from 1896 to
Over 100 years old, 130.
106 plus 15, 121 years old
How about that?
when I saw it at that time.
Is it in downtown Rose Hill, the area?
It's on, it's on, I think, number 12 Main Street.
Really?
Yeah, Main Street runs perpendicular to the highway.
Uh-huh.
It's 271 or 217 or something, and
Oh,
and
117.
and I-40,
Yeah, I know what it's at.
I-40
Right,
run this way.
right.
Main Street runs this way,
Yeah.
and the business section was about 1 block over this way and this way. And my aunt, my cousin's mother, ran Reid's dime store there for a long time. Yeah. And they lived there until she passed away, and then later he passed away.
Well, I'm from Warsaw. My
Yeah.
wife is from Wallace, and Rose Hill's in the middle. So, you know.
Yeah, Wallace is only about 4, 5, 6 miles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Her high school was Wallace Rose Hill.
Did you know a second cousin of mine ran a florist there? What was his name?
In Wallace?
In Wallace, yeah. It's kind of out of the downtown Wallace, but it has a Wallace address, but it's on the road a couple of miles out. Yeah, my Uncle Dan, whom I'm named after, started that florist.
I might ask my wife when I talk to her.
And eventually, after he died, I guess, one of the family inherited it and passed it on. And what was his name? Rouse, R-O-U-S-E.
See, that's my mom's maiden name, Rouse.
Your mother's maiden name?
Is Rouse.
Gosh, we might be related.
We might be related. You never know. Now, they were from the Kinston area.
One of my cousins there married Theodore Rouse.
Okay. My granddad was Clinton Rouse, and he had children, Sonny Rouse, Mike Rouse, my mom, Lynn Rouse, and Judy Rouse was mine. But my mom is, just to give you an idea, 73. And she was the third child. So the oldest would be right at 83 or 84. So that's the age range. If he just passed this past year, well, a little over a year ago. Sonny, he was the oldest. He'd probably be 82 or 83 right now. So Mike's still living. I think he's around 78 to 80, Michael Mike. But their last name's Rouse.
You know the Methodist church there in Mooresville?
Mooresville?
I mean, not Mooresville, Rose Hill.
Yes.
My Uncle Dan had built that playground back of the church there.
How about
Yeah, they were big church members, and yeah, I think maybe his name for some reason is on one of these stained glass windows in that church. I'm not sure about that.
And his last name's
but I
Rouse?
think I've heard that.
Dan Rouse. What was his last name?
Dan Reid, Daniel
Daniel Reid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
He never married. He backed all his life.
how
Yeah.
about that? Yeah, but like I said, Rose Hill Restaurant, which was probably there, your family had to have eaten there because it's been there forever.
Yeah.
But I met my mom and dad there a couple weeks ago, and we ate supper there. So they go there every week, every Friday night. You know.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Rose Hill.
My cousin Ben, like I said, was mayor for 10, 12 years and owned and ran Rose Hill radio repair or TV repair or something right there on the street just off the highway,
Right.
I think, yeah.
There's a funeral home right there. And one time in my life, I worked for a funeral home, and
Oh, yeah?
community funeral home is right there, right on the main, right off of 117. It's 117.
117.
Yes, so that runs right through there. And so,
I remember when 117 was nothing but a muddy road.
really, dude,
We would, when I was a child, we'd drive from Savannah to Rose Hill for, Thanksgiving or Christmas or family reunions or whatever.
right.
It took at least a full day. It was, I don't know, 300 miles, I guess.
Right.
And we'd drive. Back in those days, the cars had no air conditioning, and some didn't even have heaters, I remember we'd heat bricks before we'd leave and put the bricks in the floor of the car,
Really?
and then get in and put your feet on the bricks and then pull a blanket over you, to
How about
keep warm. But that highway, we'd come up US 17 all the way
Yeah.
from Savannah to Wilmington, then get on, I guess, 117,
Right.
and that road was muddy. I mean, it wasn't paved, and as well as I remember, I think it paralleled the railroad track.
Yes,
too.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, still does,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And that Rose Hill, that railroad goes right through Rose Hill.
Rose Hill, Wallace.
Yeah.
Rose Hill,
Yeah.
goes right, and on Warsaw, goes right straight to Warsaw.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I remember, gosh, driving from, of course, my daddy was driving, and I was a passenger from Savannah to Rose Hill, and there was a torrential rain between Wilmington and Rose Hill, and that road was slick as a eel. I mean, it was muddy, and the cars slide off, and I don't remember whether we ever got in a ditch or not, but I do remember it being muddy and slick and slippery, and yeah.
Eastern North Carolina. Yeah, that's,
And the car didn't have a trunk like cars do now, they might have had what looked like a
pocket.
some kind of a trunk, or a container that were strapped on the back, and
Right.
then on the running boards, they called running boards. These people don't know what a running board is.
No.
On each side, they had these running boards, that would spread out like a baby gate,
Right.
and clamped to the running board, and you put suitcases and all
Oh.
in there, and cover them with tar paper.
Actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was, you know, if you had more luggage than you could get into that trunk on the back of the car.
Right.
Yeah,
So, and
God, bring back memories.